Hey, it's about who you surround yourself with, right?
I was just going to say that. I was like, I mean, you got to surround yourself with people that want to go the same place and, always have that one friend who's one step ahead of you.
That's
and,
right.
That's Sir Ben over here.
But
maybe it's just you pushing me from behind, You're just like pushing me. You're the one propelling me forward. It's not me pulling you.
And then right when I'm about to catch up to him or pass him, he pivots.
He's like, super speed.
Pivot. What is up, All Terrain Fitness fam? We have another freaking awesome episode of Fueling Fire with All Terrain Fitness. And today we have a really awesome rocking guest who I know kind of well. He's a beast. He's fit. He owns his own awesome fitness company. He's been changing lives for a long time. He's also much more all-terrain than me currently with my bum ankle. So we figured, hey, let's have him lead the charge up the mountain today and talk a little bit why he loves fitness and how he helps other people with that too. So today we got Coach Hailey, myself, Garry, and introduce yourself, Ben. Who are you?
I mean, I don't think I can introduce myself as well as you just did. Although you probably lied about a lot of stuff. My name is Ben Dziwulski. I run a company called WODPREP, and I live in Denver, Colorado, not too far away from our lovely hosts here. And yeah, fitness is a big part of my life and a part of my business, and I love it.
Yeah, speaking of not living too far away, we got a little pump session yesterday.
We did. As of recording yesterday, my biceps are still a little blown up from our pump session, which is always good.
That's right.
Which there's some clarifying factors. I heard on this end that Sir Garry over here was able to do 2 legless rope climbs, but I hear there may be some judging error on whether it was 2, 1. Did they count? Did they not count?
Well, what happened was he climbed the rope, didn't get all the way to the top, which I thought was a very non-all-terrain move. And then I challenged him and I said, that's a no rep. You didn't touch the top. To which he answered by immediately climbing back up the rope. So my respect, which had, began to crumble slowly or very quickly rebuilt itself one brick at a time as he climbed the rope a second time and then actually touched the top. So he made up for it.
I claimed some level of all-terrainness or kept. Yeah, and so Ben is getting into what are we getting you into now this fall?
I'm gonna be trying to kill an elk with a bow in September. Being that I've never been hunting in my entire life, and I've never shot a bow until like a month and a half ago, I can't see us not being tremendously successful out there.
That's right.
Because I'm going to be accompanying my good friend and podcast host, Garry, who is very well known for going out and having tremendously successful hunting trips. So I'm stoked. I'm super stoked to get out there with him, because the good thing about bow hunting for elk is that success is not determined by actually putting the animal down. Success is in the process of trying to do it.
That's right. That's why it's called hunting, not killing.
Yes, we will be very much hunting and probably not too much killing and not too much
taking
eating
our bows
either.
For a walk.
Lots of hiking. Yes. Lots of walking with bows. Yeah, it'll be good. I'm stoked.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. It's going to be, it's just something that will continue for us to keep growing and doing new things and exploring new areas, right? It's just another, you have that same growth mindset. So it's something that you and I will, I'm sure, go down the rabbit hole as we do. But so we have Ben on today. He's one of my good friends. He is definitely an all-terrain human in himself. He's been training real hard lately, super jelly. But so we wanted to have him on. So Ben, just kind of tell people a little bit about, what you're doing right now. What is WODPREP? And yeah, let's hear your story.
So my story in a nutshell is, in college, I found CrossFit fell in love with it. Really love the whole idea of learning new things, and my athletic career not being over. So I, fell head over heels for CrossFit, got pretty competitive, did a lot of competing with friends, did a lot of winning of competitions in Maryland, as Gary's so familiar with. But it eventually turned into a passion where I wanted to opened my own gym, ran the CrossFit gym for a little while. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually sold the gym, moved around the world to Florida, California, San Diego, and then Japan, and then back here to the United States where I currently sit in Denver, Colorado. And along that journey from selling the gym, being, an actual competitive athlete, sort of semi-competitive, let's call it, to selling the gym, I realized that I needed to find something else to do with my life. And I sure as heck wasn't going to get a real job. And that's what led me to online business. I kind of was doing some online stuff for the gym that I owned, Blue Crab CrossFit. Eventually I sold my half of that business and then just was like, hey, I'm going to start my own coaching thing. Let's figure this out. Mm-hmm. So it all started by just making some videos and putting them online to teach people how to get ready for the 2014 CrossFit Open. They caught on well. People really liked them. And then I've been able to kind of ride that wave ever since and grow a sustainable business around that, where we have 10-ish employees all over the world, mm-hmm. and thousands of athletes all over the world, and have some very high level CrossFit Games competitors in the Masters division, all the way down to people who are just starting CrossFit today. And it's just mm-hmm. it's really awesome to be able to help people to fall in love and pursue this hobby that they love, aka CrossFit or functional fitness. And yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I went from wanting to compete for myself to wanting to teach people how to just get better at fitness. And my ultimate, the mindset there, and the reason I chose that profession is I feel like people's lives can be changed when they fall in love with fitness. Mm-hmm. And for me, the only thing that made me truly fall in love with fitness was CrossFit, because it kind of it became a sport. It became like a hobby. Like, it was fun. I didn't have to be the best in the world at it, but the striving to become better was really something that I fell in love with. And I've just seen firsthand with my family, friends, relatives, things like that. I've seen so many people transform their entire lives by falling in love with CrossFit specifically. And they're still doing it to this day. And now they eat healthier. They care about their mobility. They care about things that, middle-aged or, older senior citizen women don't usually care about, which is like, how much can I back squat? It's right. Like, it's crazy to think that my aunt, still texts me like, hit a PR today.
Oh my God,
and
that's
it's
amazing.
just, it's tremendous to see people truly have their lives transformed, both physically and mentally, through fitness. And for me, that happened to be through CrossFit, and that's what I teach. But obviously there's no, one way to do it. I think the most important thing about fitness, and the reason I'm so passionate about teaching fitness, is if you find a type of fitness that you truly fall in love with and that you look forward to doing pretty much each and every day, that's what you need to stick with. So
for sure. Right. And that's the different strokes for different folks, and to the awesomeness of like what CrossFit has produced. And, you were talking the other day about how 40, 50, 60-year-old women, why are they not squatting? Why are they not like doing the same things? Like, you see so much more of, it's much more presented or visible of older male athletes still doing these things, and like growing that, especially for that female sector. Like, that's a big part of what, with All Terrain, and is talking about like, hey, like, ladies, like you 40, 50, 60, even going into your 70s, right? It's almost even more imperative for you all to strength train, because you are already, your body is much less inclined to keep lean body mass. And if you want to keep that metabolism up, you need to do those things, right? And there's nothing that's going to do better than that than doing compound lifts. But, so yeah, I mean, you've touched thousands of athletes' lives, and you have a podcast coming out now too, right?
I do. I think that's the game plan.
Yeah.
So I'm joining forces with John Woolley from Make WODs Great Again. He also has a podcast that I think up until like last week was called Make Pods Great Again. And he is a master's athlete and also meme lord. He has a very popular Instagram page, makes the funniest memes. And he and I are going to be running a podcast called Scale and Bail. And it's basically a podcast specifically geared towards masters and scaled CrossFitters. Because we think there's a heck of a lot of information out there. A lot of people stick with this like really elitist, like highbrow, like uber competitive stuff. And there's a lot of questions, a lot of beginner questions that go unanswered. And that's really what we want to address with the Scale and Bail podcast. So I think we're going to start recording kind of soon. So this is like a warm up for me.
Yeah. I like it. There you go. You're welcome. Put you up.
Or you could say this is the grand finale. I don't know.
Yeah. Just a little T-ball.
You're peaking right now.
I'm
This
peaking.
is it, man. This is the peak.
I lost my voice last week at the CrossFit Games, and that's why I have this like nice, smooth, seductive, low voice. It's normally high and squeaky and stuff. So you're welcome, everyone.
Well, so, I want to dissect a few things that come from your story, right? It's, in all terrain is, with our athletes, it's very much a lifestyle brand. It's very much a lifestyle fitness company in the sense of, like you said, is falling in love with fitness, right? And why do we choose to do this thing repetitively and continuously? Ultimately, because it produces some sort of value in our life, right? We understand, we recognize that if I submit this action into the delayed gratification bank account, right, I'm going to get I'm bargaining with a better future, right? And so we identify where this is producing value, but not only in like a health outcome, but like how it's amplifying everything else in our life. And so, for you, it definitely presented itself when you got into CrossFit, especially a tremendous amount of value, right? You wouldn't be trying to then spread that impact further if it didn't radically transform your life. So I'm curious, like, why was this, you mentioned getting into something that you were kind of learning and expanding. Like what was kind of that feeling describe that feeling of getting into that zone of being elated and looking forward to that thing? Like, why did that produce so much value to you at the time?
I think I like the idea of, I don't know, there's something about learning something new. I know this is going to sound mean, but like there's a lot of things like sports and skills that I try and I can kind of like, I can do a decent job at it right away. Right. Like I learned spike ball the other day and I was playing with a guy who's been playing spike ball for years. And like very quickly I was, I guess, up to his level. At least that's what he told me. And I was like, well, that wasn't very difficult. I was just like, it happened immediately. There's just something about like trying something and just not being good at it and being like, oh no, I can't, like, this is tough. It's frustrating, but the act of trying to improve upon that thing and then reaping or seeing the benefits and the rewards and actually like, wow, now I can do the thing. That's amazing. And you get so many opportunities for that with all the different skills of CrossFit specifically. So I think that was like the initial allure to me. It was like, oh yeah, it's like I'm getting like fit and like will look better for the ladies, which ultimately was, obviously the only goal. And then all of a sudden it like changed from just purely like looking better and not being a slob to like, wow, this is like so interesting. I'm a beginner and there's so many like levels to pick up. I imagine it's like learning a martial art where you start leveling up in belts and you learn more complex movements, but they're all predicated on like knowing the fundamentals. So I think that's what really kept me like getting better. And I could see my performances getting better. So that just like draw towards always being better, I think was the initial experience that I had. And there's nothing better than when you finally have something click. I mean, even like practicing bow hunting, whatever. I've been practicing putting a bunch of arrows through my bow. And it's like what started with like really terrible groupings at 10 yards or 20 yards now has turned into like I'm like splitting arrows or like, it's like I can't shoot at the same target for each shot because they're so accurate. And just watching that development happen, like it makes you feel good. You're like, wow, I'm truly getting better at this. And again, going back to CrossFit specifically, it's so easy because it's a measurable thing. It's so easy to see yourself getting better when you're PRing lifts and getting better times on workouts. And that is why I started with it. And then ultimately when I changed from like caring about fitness for myself and more about like, okay, what impact am I going to make on the world? Then it changed like, well, I want to bundle up that little experience that I gave to myself through learning all these different skills and movements and things like that. And I want to give that to other people. So that's kind of how WODPREP was born, where I realized that like this is the thing that made me want to actually exercise and also eat healthy and care about sleep and pursue professional and personal development. So because of that domino of like wanting to beat some guy at the gym and, learn a couple cool party trick skills, once those dominoes were knocked over, it like fell into all other areas of my life, like mentally and physically and nutritionally and things like that. So I just realized that, hey, it worked really well for me. I think I can help other people, drink that same Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Well, and it was you, like you said, CrossFit is very measurable, but it's measurable of things that have a bigger barrier of entry, right? It's not like a bicep curl. Like it's very measurable to do a bicep curl, right? But it was this barrier of entry of like something that I have to overcome, right? There is an obstacle in my position to getting to success, in my way of success, right? That I have to learn and grow and expand my knowledge and understanding and coordination of. And that's where there's a lot of value derived out of that, right? Is putting in something that's not, putting an effort into something that's not easy and then actualizing success, right? Because most things in life worth value don't really come easy, right? Like the spike ball thing, right? You're probably not going to go back and play a crap ton of spike ball. I don't know, maybe you will. But, I think you're probably going to stick with a little bit more
it's fun, but it wasn't nearly as, or maybe it was because I didn't surround myself with the right people, right? But it's just like, all right, yeah, like it's pretty easy to pick up and I loved it. But yeah, I mean, there's something for doing hard things to unlock.
Is that like a quote?
Yeah, that might be a quote that I have painted on my wall or something. But there's just something about doing something really difficult to get a reward. And that's why, I know that with elk hunting, it's like one of the most difficult things that you can partake in is like backcountry bow hunting and elk. And then if you actually are successful, then you have the hard work of actually carrying the meat out, which depending on where you are on the mountain can be one of the hardest things you've ever done.
It can be a multi-day event.
Yeah. And there's something, oh man, what the heck is I don't remember what the quote is, but like basically like no grit, no pearl. Basically it's like if you don't have the grind, then the reward at the end is just not that sweet. Like I would much rather have to like bootstrap my own business and build something from scratch. I feel like I'd have a lot more pride in it and feel a lot more confident in my abilities than just like being handed the keys to a business and be like, all right, don't screw it up. Or, here's a trust fund. Good luck with life. I'm happy to have that.
If you think about it, that's why like there's the beauty of the underdog story. That's why that's so entertaining for everyone, is because, when it is like, oh, this was easy for someone and they achieved it, like, okay, cool.
Not a good story.
Yeah, we know they can do that. Awesome. Yeah. Next, like
we care more about the hero that had this bigger obstacle to overcome. But like for you and us, like it's something that's very well seasoned and well trained. Like that muscle of willingness to go into the fray and go into the shit and the suck and to get to the other side. Like we're so willing on the dime of a hat, right? Like I was like, Ben, you're getting into elk hunting. He's like, cool, awesome. I know it's tough, but I don't need to even, I don't premeditate upon that. And a lot of people do, right? A lot of people with fitness, a lot of people actualizing their goals, whether it be in life, right? We see a lot of people come in our atmosphere and they start they were afraid and had a lot of negative self-doubt about their health, and they start to get that in alignment. And then that starts to train that muscle that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Training that willingness that we have, it's very well trained in us, is to immediately be willing to go into the shit that might suck, right? And so like for us, that obstacle that's preventing us to getting to a position of success is what we want to do. But a lot of people don't want to get to that obstacle, right? The fear, the tiger is in front of that obstacle.
Well, that reminds me, and I'd be curious because you two, I think especially, you're talking about it, you both kind of innately have that. Like you have the grit, you have the grind, and it's just something that you're like, I don't know, it's just kind of in me. I don't really remember not having that. It was from when I was younger and I grew up. I'd be interested. I was just talking to an athlete, and she and I were kind of dissecting this, and she brought up, David Goggins and a lot of the other people that are like known for the grind and that they like put themselves in that situation. And she was kind of having this conversation like, I just don't have that. Like I don't know how to push through those things. And, you were just saying, training it like a muscle. So I'd be curious, and maybe you've seen this, Ben, with teaching specific athletes through things. Like, do you think it's something you have or don't have? And if it's not, can you learn it? Like, what's your stance on that?
That's a really good question. And I won't claim to have the answer, but
yeah,
I think there's a lot of factors that I think there's a lot of factors in my life that have like supported me in the developing of that, like that confidence and that willingness to like if someone was like, Ben, can you run a marathon tomorrow? I'd be like, dear God, please ask me this. But if someone if Garry came to me with like a really compelling reason, like, Ben, sorry, man, we got to run a marathon tomorrow. I'd be like, all right, dude.
All right,
like,
here we go.
All right, fine. Like, that sucks, but I'll do it. And I think part of that confidence and the the willingness to say yes to myself and the willingness to challenge myself and try to overcome obstacles and not be timid. I think a lot of that actually came from playing sports growing up. Because, and I know Garry played sports as well, but like I was always on team sports, and I was around other people who would like be negative Nancy's and just realize that it was so much better to be positive and be like, yeah, like we got this. And I naturally rose to that position of leadership on like all the team sports that I played on. Like I was a team captain on almost every single sporting team I played on, whether it's football or basketball or whatever, fishing. And a lot of it was because I probably also my parents had a lot to do with it. It's like they were always very supportive of me. It's not like my parents.
To give your parents credit,
Yeah, I mean, it had, like I'm not going to claim it was like me. I think your parents helped wire you for these things. Like if I had two parents, my mom and dad were absent, or if they were not encouraging, or if they never came to my games, or if they're always like, man, you sucked out there, or like, dude, you really made some mistakes. It wasn't like that. Like my mom was always like, that one play that you had where you did this, oh my, that was amazing. And did it probably boost my ego too much? Yeah. I mean, until I was probably in like 9th or 10th grade, I thought I was going to be an NBA basketball player. Past the point of like realizing, wait a minute, like most people should have known that about 7th grade. It took me until about 9th or 10th grade. But I think, so my parents had a lot to do with it. So that is something I could never control. But that being said, let's say you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I had a shitty parent situation, or even though I didn't, I just don't have that self-confidence at all. Everything that you do in life is like a vote in one direction. You're either voting like for that self-confidence, or you're voting towards that inner critique saying like, see, I knew you could never do it. Right. Like we have these two people in our, in our psyche, in our subconscious. There's the person that I have to bet all the time that's like, you can't do this. You're a fraud. You're an imposter. You have no idea what you're doing. Like, are you even fit? Do you even do this? Look at this person. They're so much better than you. All those things. And then there's the other one that's like, you're confident. You can do it. You have the one that tears you down, the one that builds you up. And those are two voices that I think we all have. Every time you make a decision in the direction of like positive, like just trying to implement a positive habit, trying to pursue a goal, like practicing something, like basically doing the actions will turn you into the actual person you want to be. So a classic example is like, if you want to be a bow hunter, we'll just use a non-fitness one. So like, if you want to be a bow hunter, in my mind, I have crazy imposter syndrome every single time I go into that bow shop, or every single time I have to ask someone a question about like, hey, what is this? I don't even know what this means. Right. Like crazy imposter syndrome. But the way that I'm overcoming that is I'm just like, I'm forcing myself to show up, to put in my reps, even if they're not perfect reps. And every time I do that, I build a little bit of confidence and I'm voting my inner critic or inner cheerleader is like, I'm either voting in either direction. If I stay home and I don't go shoot my arrows and I just like, instead, like, I don't know, mess around with social media or watch TV or something like that. Like, the inner critic is just going to be like, yep, see, like you're not putting in the work. You're not practicing. Like I knew, like when you get out into the woods, you're going to miss it. You know, you're going to miss the shot or you're not going to be able to keep up. And you're like, your actions are giving your subconscious a reason to talk shit about yourself.
Self-program you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But then on the other side of things, like when you actually block out the time to put in the work, even if it's not perfect, you're voting, you're giving your subconscious, the cheerleader, a reason to be like, yep, see, we're putting in that work. Like, yeah, it might not have been perfect. Yeah, you still might not be prepared, whatever, but like you're putting in the work. You did something today that moved you in the right direction. And I think that's something where like, it's much easier said than done. But if you understand, like as a human being, if you're someone that says, I don't have the grind, I don't have the determination, I don't have the willpower that all these other people have, that's because that's what you believe in yourself, and your actions back up what you believe. Like that's part of your identity. Part of your identity is like, another example, I am a disorganized human. So like I will accept being disorganized because I believe that I'm a disorganized human. Yep. If you want to become an organized human, rather than just like believing you're an organized human, say, hey, I'm a disorganized human, but I'm going to be organized. And you start doing actions you start doing actions that vote, that like reprogram your brain to be like, you know what? I am organized. Another example of this, and then I'll shut up, is like a morning, like I did this once in my life where I was like, I'm not a morning person, right? I was like, I sleep in, I'm not a morning, I never was a morning person. Always taking 100 alarms to get up. And then like, there was kind of a day where I just decided like, you know what? The reason I'm not a morning person is because I've always told everyone else and myself that I'm not a morning person.
Right.
Like, I'm going to be a morning person starting tomorrow. And the way I'm going to do that is by never hitting the snooze button again. I'm going to set my alarm for whatever, 6 a.m. And when that alarm goes off, I'm not going to go back to bed. And, all right, how can I make this even better? All right, I'm going to take the alarm and I'm going to move it across my apartment and put it on the other side of the room. And I'm going to get the loudest alarm clock I can find. Like, and then all of a sudden that first day I woke up, I didn't hit the snooze button. Haven't hit the snooze button in like 4 years. Just from that one little decision, that one action where I proved to myself, like, no, you can get your ass out of bed. Don't set an alarm unless you actually are getting up at that time. Like, don't like let yourself be so weak that you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it. Cause then you're like, it's one thing to break your word with someone else. It's another thing to break your word with yourself. Like that's that's messed up. You don't want to do that
too. Yeah.
Yeah. And do it repetitively every single morning. You break your word with yourself. It's like, you're setting yourself up for disaster. So anyway, find something that you can at least like flip that switch and change your habits so that you start voting in the direction that you want to be. And then like for me, I'm a morning person now, right? I woke up at 5 in the morning this morning to go mountain biking, right? I would never do that back in the day, but my buddy texted me, hey, want to ride at 6? I'm like, yep. Easy. You know, and it's just, that's because I've reprogrammed myself just by taking the actions to show myself that I am no longer not a morning person. So
yeah. When you say feeding into the self-confidence, you're feeding into the self-belief, right? And so many people, we have another way to think about, like, you're voting in one direction, another, coin to or term to maybe somebody resonate with is like you have two wolves to feed, right? Which wolf are you deciding to feed? We can choose to feed the wolf of negative self-programming, continually saying, again, like you said, I'm not a morning person, or you continue to lay down the action of getting into the thing that you want to create a belief around. And so many people, when they come into fitness, and I think this is for all of us, right? Like fitness was kind of that first thing that gave us that pillar of seeing something that we want to accomplish, putting it in action, getting a positive reward from it, and overcoming something difficult, right? And it was something that became such an archetype or principle for our brain to how to lead life, that's what is the beauty of getting into a healthy lifestyle, right? Like that's why we, in our companies, we want to do this, because it's not only going to just obviously make you more fit and healthier and maybe look better for the ladies, like you said, in college, or now or whatever,
Yeah, and now, let's be clear.
It's fine. I'm not here. It's okay.
I'm trying to look better for the Haileys of the world.
That's right.
That's all it is.
Come on, guys.
That's right.
Yeah, it's all about it's I hate cliches, but there's a reason they're really popular. But yeah,
right.
Which wolf are you feeding? That's the one. I mean, it's such a true statement, because the one that you feed will get stronger. And hey, maybe right now you are dealing with you have a negative Nancy wolf that is inside of you that is very strong because you've been feeding it for a really long time.
Right.
Throw the other one a treat, give it something to eat, and try to do it as consistently as possible. It's not to say that you're going to listen to this podcast and immediately be a self-confident person that loves fitness all the time. That is an irrational thing to believe. Right. But you can say, hey, what is one thing I can do today that's going to feed that positive wolf? What is one thing I can do today that's going to give my subconscious a vote saying, see, I did say I was going to do that and I did it.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's how you have to start with something. For me, I think a lot of it was, at least more recently, one of the biggest things was that alarm clock. I was able to reprogram something that I believed about myself. And then I kind of stepped back and was like, wait a minute. The only reason I behave this way is because this is what I believe about myself. Yeah. And this is before I even understood neuro reprogramming or whatever the heck it's called. And it was just like, all right, what if I just didn't believe what if I believed I was a morning person from now on? Boom. Right. And it worked. So yeah.
But to get to, first to maybe break that apart, is we do have all these littler things in our lives that we can create an alarm clock, right? But in our, in the grand scheme of things, the big pressure points are that health, wealth, and relationships, right? Those are the big triad. And, a lot of people in, our realm, all-terrain athletes, right, is a lot of things actually tend to be, other areas of their life tend to be organized, right? Other areas with their career, with their relationships, or maybe not,
their
whatever
finances
it may be.
Dialed in. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, they're so negatively self-programmed in their beliefs that they're not a fit person, right? And because there's such an negative emotion attached to it, feelings of discouragement, feelings of frustration, feelings of pain, and all these things, right? It's this very kind of not dark, but just not pleasant place for them to go to think about trying to get there. So which that segued me into my next thing is you obviously with the alarm, let's use the alarm as an example, is you had to first identify though, why would this be a good aim? Why would this be a good position to create value in my life, right? You just didn't say, right, that I'm just gonna be a morning person for no reason, right? You had to identify me becoming this person is going to produce this value, right? So you have to find that aim first. For anyone out there listening, right? If you want to cultivate a healthy lifestyle, aka all-terrain lifestyle, right? You still have to get to a position of getting clear with yourself of why would I want to change this? What value would this produce to my life? Right. And then even though we identify something, like you said, we still get into a position where we may identify that thing, but then we are dealt with previous programming. Then we are plagued by past failures and thoughts of failure, right? Mm-hmm. So it is about, again, identifying how can this produce me value? And then it makes, when you can do that and you are getting into position like, all right, I need to change my belief. It is repetition, right? It is a muscle. It's a thing that takes time. It takes time feeding the wolf continuously. And is it going to be easy? No. Like, it is a big obstacle to overcome, especially in that triad of the health, wealth, and relationships. Mm-hmm. Those tend to be the biggest obstacles. It's a much bigger obstacle to transform your life of health than it is to set an alarm clock over in the corner, right? But it's a great micro example of how to expand that across those different domains that we might want to accomplish. And I think that's part of why fitness is so integral to all of our lives, is it's that routine practice of training that mental muscle, physical muscle, going through the suck, and always staying grounded in, it's like a physical practice that's training that same mental muscle.
Right. Well, it's almost funny that you used the example that way of kind of like health and fitness being the like last missing link, because in my brain, and I think it's just so interesting on, like what people find to be difficult, but I would say kind of the mental aspect was always the really challenging thing for me. And to create these kind of new habits, and like you were saying, building confidence and understanding that grit and drive is really built through your confidence. For me, it was the gym and fitness was the safe place to test those things. Like, it was almost this superficial area where it was like, well, the failure doesn't matter as much. Like, it's just a workout. It's just, it seemed more like, I'm here to look better or do these things. It didn't seem like it held that much value on like who I was as a human being. So it almost seemed like being able to overcome those obstacles in the gym gave me the safe place to trial and error those new habits and things I was learning. And then they just, like you said, they just bleed into the other parts of your life. So I think there's probably, it may be the gym for me. It could be, someone's business for someone else, wherever their kind of strong point of confidence is. But I think building that sense of confidence in whatever your kind of quote unquote safe place is, doing that first, and then allowing that to kind of ebb and flow into the other things. And I think a lot of us, the three of us, especially since we have worked with athletes, we see that happen. Like, we see them kind of push that boundary, and you like immediately see it on their face, the way they hold themselves, their actions, like, oh shit, they just did something that like made them feel really, really good. Mm-hmm. And then you start to see them hold themselves differently when they walk into the gym. You see them somewhere else and they're being confident there. And so I would just be intrigued to know if, some people it's a really uncomfortable place, but I think for me, it was
a safe space for you to test your capabilities to prove competency, right? Like, we all want to be viewed as a competent person in the things that we do. Mm-hmm. And, us having athletic backgrounds, right? Like, that's definitely, physical movement is such a thing that like we're grown up with that nurture that quickly is like, hey,
right.
I might not be good at all these other things over here, but I can quickly create competency in the fitness realm, and it's easy. It was a spot for you to go and continue to build competency or confidence in your capabilities of trying different things that are tough and actualizing like, oh shit, like look at that, I did it. And that totally has a bleed over effect into other areas of life, right? It's that continual repetition of positive affirmation, and you start to build up, you puff up your chest, you stand up a little bit taller, but you see it in before and after photos. Like, legitimately, we have athletes that they're in their first photo, they're sulking, their chin is tucked, right? They don't look happy. They don't look in a good, positive posture, right? And by the end of the 16 weeks of our program, right, they get through and they're like, they've lost weight, the skin looks different, smile looks different, they're standing up taller, right? And it's for you, fitness is a place that you could easily test competency. For other people that don't have an athletic background, right? And then they've tried, their 40s, 50s, or 3-4 decades right now, not being able to be able to find that physical competency, right? It can be a very big mental barrier to overcome. It isn't the safe space. It can be the inverse.
Right. And that's what I just find really interesting, and that it's, you see it in so many different areas. But I think for everyone, there is at least one place where you do have that feeling. There's one thing that you're good at or can build confidence at, like no matter how small of a thing it is. And I think that's where you start to like, okay, now I know and understand what this feeling is. I'm going to try to recreate it in these other situations and scenarios. But I think it's going to be different for each person where that is. But I think all of us have that.
Yeah. And that's why fitness produces such a tremendous amount of value, right? It is that repetition thing that we know builds up the confidence for Ben to be like, if I tell Ben, hey, dude, we're running a marathon, to be able to go and elk hunt, he'd be like, cool, I guess we're running to where we're hunting. Don't say where it is.
Don't say it out loud.
It's that place for you, right? And it has that spillover effect, which went into business, right? Like, for both of us, for I'm sure you first starting out, like trying to do the online thing, right? Like it was a place of, like you said, feelings of, can I do this? That I might fail, right? That I might not be competent in running a business, right? But that fitness, having that like that backbone of competency in one domain allowed you to at least understand the concept of like, all right, here's a position of aim. Here's an obstacle mentally and physically that I need to overcome. But I know I have enough confidence that I can take reps and feed the positive wolf, and I will probably get to some level of success in the future. And I think a lot of people don't have that mechanism, or haven't been trained or asked, or even why would there be this place of value for your fitness and these obstacles to overcome. So I think like that is displayed, it's spilled over into all our lives. And especially I feel like it's probably happened for you in WODPREP too.
Yeah. With business, it was, any area of incompetency, you can look back on your life and identify times where you overcame your incompetency to become competent, right? Like, so the gym is where a lot of people do that, like you said. So for me, going into starting a business, I probably used the development of my fitness as proof to say, hey, I couldn't do this before. Now I can, and I got really good at it. And that was in fitness, and I did it. And then it's like, oh, now this is business. It's totally different, but also the same. I'm incompetent. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what any of these terms mean, and I'm terrified. But I was able to use what I had already proven to myself, that, Ben, you can learn and try new things and get really good at them. And then that carried over into business. And now that has carried over into elk hunting and other various things that I picked up. So if you're someone who's having a hard time having the confidence to change in a specific area, look back at a different part of your life and look deeply, like, hey, where have I been like really bad at one point and then got way, way better? There's got to be something. It could be something as simple as driving. Right? We all remember how terrible and frightened we were to drive our first cars. It was horrible. Like I think the first turn of my driving test, I jumped a curb with like all 4 of my tires somehow. What were you saying, Hailey?
I was going to say, I remember, and I like vividly remember talking to my friend, because obviously like you sit on the side of the car and like, how are we going to know to like keep it in the middle of the lines? Like I won't feel like I'm in the middle. Just like the weirdest basic thing where you're like, I don't know, you just naturally do that.
Yeah. But we all learned how to do that. We overcame that complete terror and being really bad at it to now we're hopefully all better than we were when we started driving, Yeah. And that is one of, I'm sure, many examples in everyone's life where there's areas where they started and they were really bad and then now they're really good. And I think using that as fuel to attack new endeavors is something that's important. Luckily for, Garry and I, it seems like we have that natural confidence to be like, yep, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. Yeah. Right. I know I can do it. That's because we have so many instances in our past where we've gone from not knowing how to do it to learning it and then doing it really well.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's like feeling stuck, that's a good thing. Is like, all right, what is something to reflect on is like, what is something that you've not been good at, practiced, got better, failed, and then eventually got really good at it. And then like, think about that. Why did you get good at it? It could be singing, it could be stage performing, it could be writing, it could be, I don't know, making music, it could be anything. Whatever your thing that you're good at is, use that as fuel to become good at something else, because you can do it. It's just about like channeling that confidence and then applying the reps. You got to get your reps in. No one got good at
gradual
anything.
Exposure.
Yeah. No one got good at anything worthwhile by just like snapping their fingers, right?
Yeah. But that's, I would assume, is basically why, in our realm, we always want to help our athletes figure out like, why would this provide value to your life, right? And for you, like, fitness provided this tremendous amount of value that I would assume is, again, like, is that spillover effect into WODPREP, right? It is such an integral pillar to value in your life, keeping your mental landscape in order, keeping your energy in order, keeping your grit and determination in order, keeping your fire for life in order, which is probably a big reason as to the driver as to the inception of WODPREP, right? And there's no better feeling for us as coaches is to see that athlete overcome that obstacle in your realm, like getting a muscle up, right? Like, I know that's like one of your favorite things, when you can have these people who have been struggling with the skill for a long period of time, starting to have self-doubt, and then you get them over top the bar and they have the most elated. They're jumping around like a little kid who opened up an Xbox on Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, it connecting people to like understanding the value behind what they're striving for is really important. Like, if you don't have, if there's no value there, if there's nothing that you can be like, some might call it the why. Like, why are you striving to do X, Y, and Z? Let's say it's become really fit. Why are you trying to do that? It doesn't matter what the why is, as long as you are connected with it. Like, I mean, for a while there, for me, it was like, I want to look better naked for the ladies. And then that changed to, I want to beat other people at this sport aspect of it, because I just tend to be a competitive person. And then that changed to, now I do it because I want to be fit to live the rest of my life and just hang with all these ridiculously fit people in Colorado. Right. So, all these
all-terrain people,
exactly. So like, the why can change, but like, you have to identify it, or else you're not going to be willing to go through the grind. You're not going to be willing to overcome the obstacles and go through the challenges if you're like, oh, I'm just doing this because someone told me to do it.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't work.
Well, and you compete, like, you bring it to the competing in CrossFit. Like, I liked competing because I'm a very competitive person. It's not necessarily just that, right? It's also still, it's a way of you proving your competency to yourself, that the action that I'm taking on this thing repetitively, I'm getting proof that it's working, right? And it doesn't have to be on a competitive level. That's a very big, obvious display of that, but we have that in a lot of realms in our life, right? Like, and people are at a different stage in their journey, and that's okay, right? Like, everyone is in a different position, climbing the mountain to where they want to go. And for Ben, it was like, I've always been naturally fit. I'm very healthy to begin with. And this was a new obstacle for him to overcome, and allowing him to prove his competency in competition, right? But the same thing with us, right? If we can do, like, that's the beauty of, like, people that are like, I did like 10 push-ups. Like, I'm 40 and I've never done 10 push-ups in my life, right? It's the same exact mental concept of putting in that effort, getting this result back that is proving that, man, the shit I'm actually doing is fucking working, and this feels fucking awesome. And just like one of our athletes yesterday, she's like, I got into this program. I had been so negative about my health and fitness, and I got that in alignment, and now I'm out demanding in my job to get back to doing things that are creative and fun and light fulfilling. Up her passion. Yeah.
Yeah, she could tell that, she was being held back at work almost. And it was similar. I mean, we were talking earlier on this episode of like, when you're just naturally good at something and there's not the struggle to be overcome, it's like, all right, cool. Like, I don't feel that sense of fulfillment. And she had overcome a lot of those barriers through the program now. And she kind of had this like, oh shit moment of like, I don't challenge myself at all anywhere else. Like that needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
I need to find a way. And she's like, I never even realized it. Like at work, I'm feeling I'm in such a rut because I don't have to struggle at anything. It's easy. I'm stuck and I don't know what to do. And I don't think she would have realized that.
Her position of aim was the position of aim she got herself back into was just identifying she wanted passion to be present in her work, right?
Right.
She had acquired a certain title at a place, but like then she realized like it's passion that she wanted to be present in this, and she wasn't challenging herself. She also didn't have that aim, right? So again, it's like all these things in our life, our career, our family, our relationships, health, like it is where you're at. And you know, we all kind of feel like we want these things because we're bombarded by it, like an Instagram, but like people take those other perceptions and kind of put it on themselves instead of actually taking time to carve out and to identify what is my exact aim, right? Like what is actually going to produce me value by accomplishing certain XYZ thing, instead of being like, well, I just gotta, you know, like bringing it back to the moms who just run 2 hours and want to be good career and also want to be the fit pro body, right? Instead of just taking time, like what is going to be my good position of aim with my health, instead of comparing and contrasting to other people. And when you identify, right, it's just, that's why we love fitness. That's why we love the all-terrain, is because like, look, when you can get confident in your body and your body's capabilities, and you have your energy and your food all in that shit in alignment, you're gonna naturally start realizing like that was pretty rewarding. Like, now where else in my life can I find that, search for that same feeling? And that's what I think we all do. I think that's what WODPREP has always done. I think that's what we aim to do. And I think that's the beauty of fitness. And I think that's something that more people need to talk about in the fitness industry. Like, I feel like before the pandemic, everything was so much of like, what's your coolest fitness hack, right? Like, how do you train? What is it this? And it's like, well, let's talk about like why. Like, why are we doing? Why is this going to produce more value? Why is this going to help me continue? Why do I want to keep this in my life so I can keep hanging out with fit people in Colorado, right? Like, what does that provide me? Provides me a sense of happiness and community and doing new things and exploring, right? It's more than just wanting to be fit with these people. And so if you're anyone out there, like you're struggling to get a fit lifestyle, you're struggling to make fitness a part of your thing, and you're really plagued by multiple decades of not getting to where you want to go or having multiple failed launches, it's not because of something that you did wrong, right? It's the sheer fact that maybe you didn't have a position of aim, and maybe you didn't have something that was actually designed to get you to your position of value. They were trying to box you into their specific thing of how you need to formulate your fitness and your health and your eating, right? It's about identifying, where do I want to go? What are the just principles to get there? But then I can start to bring in the nuances into my life that makes sense, right? And if you can do that, then you get to a position of sustainability when you're guided by principles, not like Weight Watcher points, right?
Right.
It's something that takes you the repetition of identifying what is actually fun, like Ben said, that I can want to replicate over and over and over. Boom.
Agreed.
All right. Well,
I love it when Garry gets on his tangents.
Ha 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 ha.
It's the best.
Me and Hailey just sit back and watch.
That's right.
Good You're thing, like, yes.
Good thing we don't have any substances to fuel the tangents.
We would be here for a very long time.
Dude, whatever you do not bring up wolves coming to Colorado.
Hilarious. See these mule deers over here? That's why.
I do. Yes.
That's why we don't want wolves.
Oh my god.
But so yeah. Ben, thank you so much for being on here. We know we have a few questions before we wrap up, but thank you for being on here. You know, you're a good friend of mine, and you know, we've done a lot of fitness things together, a lot of nearly identical fitness journeys and companies. I just keep tagging behind Ben. That's okay. Hey, it's about who you surround yourself with, right?
I was just going to say that. I was like, I mean, you got to surround yourself with people that want to go the same place, and you know, always have that one friend who's one step ahead of you.
That's
and
right.
That's Sir Ben over here.
But
maybe it's just you pushing me from behind, you know? You're just like pushing me You're the one propelling me forward. It's not me pulling you.
And then right when I'm about to catch up to him or pass him, he pivots.
He's like, super speed.
Pivot. I'm going to pickle prep.
I'm not doing competitive CrossFit anymore. I'm gonna save this picture of me on top of the podium, and I'm Audi 5000.
That's right. So to paint the picture, Ben and I had this competition show. I was kind of in a different realm, more bodybuilding, powerlifting. Ben kind of got me more into the CrossFit realm. You know, we would compete. I wasn't kind of close to him, and then I started creeping up. And then we have one workout where we go into the last workout tied. And
it's the finals.
It's the finals, last workout, right? All on the line. Him and I were tied for first. And rope climbs come up, and I don't know how to do rope climbs. So, you know,
as we heard from yesterday,
never climbed a rope prior. It was a total catastrophe. And so it ends up being like Ben first on the podium, and then there was somebody else tied for first who knew there was three of us. He got second, and I was third, right? So it was like right when I was starting to get to Ben. And he just dips. He's like, and I'm done doing competitive CrossFit. And I'm going to Japan. I'm like, no.
I like your version of the story. It's a version. It's a version.
That's what Garry does. He has his version.
Somehow
that's the truth. But you know what? Okay.
It's Garry's
you were there trying to give me the quick tutorial of how to climb the rope.
I was helping you in the middle of the workout.
I don't know. As you were winning.
With everyone else too.
Yeah. I think you were the only one who was really good at climbing a rope on that one.
I finished that one, before everyone, and then I went around to each competitor, was like, "Hey, can I help?"
Yeah, hey, I'm gonna show you how to climb.
I wasn't trying.
I just beat you.
No, asshole! I don't want you to help. That's like when we do Murph and Garry. This is finally the first year it hasn't happened, but always on the second mile. He's already back, and I go.
He runs to run it again with you,
and he tries to run it with me, and he'll run backwards. I'm like, get the fuck out of here! You're being annoying. Leave me alone.
Yeah, the bottom line is all about who you surround yourself with, and whatever level they're playing at, that's the level that you're going to play at. So keep leveling up, keep pushing each other. And I know when I hang out with Garry and Hailey, I am pushed to achieve more, and that's what good friends are for.
For sure. Hey there, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the episode and took away some value that will amplify your life. But if you are ready to become an all-terrain human yourself, then click the link below to head over to our Facebook group to receive a copy of our all-terrain body blueprint, the 5 key pillars to a fast metabolism for life. These 5 pillars will show you how to speed up your metabolism at any age and eat for your specific metabolic needs so you can obtain your ideal composition without eliminating foods and spending all day in the gym. So if you're ready to reclaim your energy, vitality, and fire for life, then click the link below and head over to the All Terrain Fitness Mentality and Fat Loss Facebook group to pick up a copy of the All Terrain Body Blueprint, the 5 key pillars to a fast metabolism for life. And we will see you on the inside. We got to ask you one last question that we ask everyone. We know fitness is a routine part of your life. We know it's going to be something you do for forever. So, we think you are an all-terrain human. So what does being an all-terrain human mean to you?
Being an all-terrain human means that you are able to accept life's challenges, both physically and mentally. You are ready to attack whatever the obstacle is in front of you, whether it is a mountain, whether it is a barbell, whether it is a complex problem you need to solve at work. I think that's what being all-terrain is.
Boom. That was a great definition.
It was.
I'm gonna put
you guys
that.
Can steal that. I'll take a little bit of the cut.
I'll send you commission checks. Real quick, Ben, tell people where they can find WODPREP, what maybe the podcast, whatever you got going on now. Let the people know where they can find you and what you're up to.
Sure. If you want to get directly in touch with me, probably one of the best ways is at WODPREP on Instagram, WODPREP. I actually still respond to those messages. So, you can DM me, let me know you listen to the podcast. you want to check out all the resources that we have as a company, WODPREP.com has a lot of great free training material. And then we have pretty big YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook channels they're basically just overflowing with educational content. And then, of course, if you want, anything more, whether it's programming or to work one-on-one, if you're like specific into CrossFit, then we can definitely help with that. Just shoot me a DM and I'll help you out. And then, yes, I will eventually at some point maybe have a podcast, and it's going to be called Scale and Bail with John and Ben. And it's going to be specifically for CrossFitters and or older athletes who are trying to learn how to get better at that crazy, weird thing called CrossFit.
Well, and I'll enter my little side note into it. It's not even just for CrossFit, right? Like,
no,
Hailey and I know, like, that form of training with high intensity and doing these global movements is something that will always be a part of our training regimen. Like, that is something,
Right.
There are so many modalities and crossover into from that we will keep a part of our routine. So, right, it's for really anyone, like, you need to have a level of competency in these movements.
Yep, absolutely. It's and I call it CrossFit just because it's easier to say it, right?
Yeah.
But really, anyone who wants to get better at the functional fitness movements, especially the more technical ones or the ones that they just can't figure it out. Like, hey, I wasn't able to climb a rope when I was in first grade, and I still can't climb it when I'm 45. I can help you get up that rope. So
Yeah.
I'm here to help you achieve your fitness goals.
Yeah, you're there. You are there to give them the competency to perform that task at a higher level, which is going to create a bigger adaptation, which is going to allow them to stay healthier and fitter for life. And for those of you listening, if you are anyone who struggles with things like squatting or like some gymnastic style movements, some pull-ups, or toes to bar is a movement that we always do, or you want to get anything better at those CrossFit specific movements, is again an easy way to say that. Ben is world class at that. Like, Ben is world class at coaching those movements and distilling them down into such simplistic yet effective points that anyone can take over into and spill over into their learning curve, right? And make it very applicable, right? He takes these high level complex things and distills them down to 1 or 2 bullet points that are highly digestible, right? Whereas a lot of coaches in the CrossFit realm try to interject so much nuance and so much complexity. And that's one thing that Ben has always been great at. And actually really is when I owned my, functional fitness gym, right? Like, that was, how he coached. There were so many cues that I took from him. So, if you're looking for a world-class coach that can set you up in the right position for success in a way that makes a lot of sense, like, WODPREP is literally top 1% of that in the world. So, I
like to use small words. That's all it is. I just like smaller words.
Yep.
Yes, that's right. His simplistic brain keeps his coaching.
That's all it is.
Awesome. Well, I will see you soon. I'll see you. It's almost September. I'll see you in the mountains, man. We'll be out for a week.
Applying our all-terrainness.
That's right.
I am very excited.
In the woods for a week, because we'll get some mental restoration to come back.
What are you going to do when Ben puts down an animal before you?
See, why would you, when you speak those things into existence?
It's a team effort.
You have to have a plan for when things happen. That's what I hear, is when you're going to have this obstacle, have a plan of what to do.
I will be happy to be a
effort.
part of Ben's first animal taken. And to be a part of that
is
journey.
being recorded.
Yes. Will I have feelings of animosity and hate? Yes. But
that's what our relationship is for, Gary.
But will I have
There's always
will
a
that
twinge.
be quickly overwritten by feelings of elation and joy that my buddy is experiencing this awesome moment? It will.
It will.
It might take a little bit.
Yeah.
There's the initial.
Come talk to us in like 5 years. Hopefully we run into this problem this year, but I'm not holding my breath.
I might have to go through the 5 or however many stages of grief but awesome stuff. Thanks for being on the Fueling Fire podcast, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
See ya.
Rock on.